And so with that, we're going to kick off before we hear from our panelists and our speakers this morning. We're going to kick off with a couple of poll questions. So I am going to do this so I can stop sharing. And then I will bring up the first poll question, which you should see on your screen now. Are you aware of the impact Black farmers have on the food supply in America? So go ahead and give your answer to that. We'll give you a few seconds to go ahead and respond to that question. And if you're coming in, thank you for joining us. We have a poll question up that hopefully you see. And so go ahead and answer that question. We have a few more seconds that will keep this poll question alive. All right, about 5 seconds left. All right, and half. Wow, okay. 50% of people say that they're aware, 50% of people say they're not. Interesting. Very, very interesting. All right. So we'll get into poll question number 2, which you should see in a second here. All right. Poll question number 2 says, do you know how to locate a local farm in your area? Do you know how to locate a local farm in your area? All right, we're going to give about 10 more seconds for folks to be able to answer this question. About 5 seconds left. All right, so the results say almost 60% of folks know how to locate a local farm in your area. Appreciate everyone for joining us for those quick poll questions. We'll revisit another poll towards the end of the session today as well. But again, throughout the day, remind you, please participate in the chat and go ahead and share comments and different things about the conversation this morning. So we're not eager. We are eager to hear and learn from our panelists this morning. But before we do, there's just some basic information I wanted to share about AARP. So AARP is the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan membership organization in the country. We're dedicated to empowering people to choose how they live as they age, helping them to fulfill their goals and dreams. And also we want people to age with confidence. One of the things that we're focusing on today is healthy living and healthy aging. AARP remains focused on creating what we call livable communities for all ages. We focus on that here in California. We focus on that across the country. If you wanted to learn more about the work that we do in this space, you can go to www.aarp.org/livable. There you can learn about the domains of livability. You can learn about we have something called the Community Challenge Grants that we provide to communities to help support local activities and programs and projects people might be doing or organizations are looking to do. You can also learn about the 9 domains of livability, one of them being health and supportive services, which is what we'll focus on in our conversation today. And so with that, we'll jump into our panelists who will help us. You're going to see what I'm going to do with this. We're going to dig into the root of our conversation. I don't know if you all got what I just did there, but we're digging into the root of our conversation with individuals in a Black farming space. So with that, first, let me welcome Glenn McMillon, who is a co-founder of BUFA, which is the Black Urban Farmers Association in the Central Valley here in California. So, Glenn, go ahead and introduce yourself for everybody, and then we'll keep everything moving.
Thank you. Thank you. First of all, I'm honored to be in this space. Just beyond words and to be invited to be a participant in this forum. So let me tell you a little bit about Bufo. So in the 2015, uh, there were about 12 plot holders who were a part of a farm, a community farm, then called Puentes, and a couple, a very wonderful, amazing couple by the name of Al and Inez Aldrich had a vision. That vision was to start a farm that focused primarily on the needs of the underserved community in our area, Stockton, um, and with a emphasis on African American ownership and direction. So Al, who I like to call a master of all trades. I mean, he can do it all. So with the help and blessing of a landowner by the name of Miss Kitty Brown. She leased out about a quarter acre of land to us. And from there, Al put his vision into motion. We built Boofer from the ground. I mean, literally. We put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into it. And so we had to go the mission of providing healthy, uh, healthy foods that were grown naturally, pesticide free. Uh, we not only wanted to make it accessible, but we also wanted to make it affordable, and perhaps even you know uh, free to those who could not um, uh, afford to purchase. But we were living in an area that to us was kind of like a food desert. So there was this emphasis on healthy uh, produce, vegetables, fruits. Um, we wanted to grow the kind of produce and crops that reflected our culture. So, of course, that meant a lot of greens, mustards, and all sorts of greens, but carrots, you name it. So, beets. Um, we were in the business of attending and hosting farmers markets to get our produce out. But again, that was the vision. That was the initial dream. But Retha Hardy, unfortunately, when Al and Inez relocated to Texas, Rita Hardy took up the vision and grew it, and she just put so much effort into um, growing and expanding this vision, and she has done an amazing job, and to the point we currently have a board of directors, and so we are in the business of making that vision, that dream become a reality. And so what grew out of that is a mission statement, as you might call it, and I'll just simply, read it. You may have seen it on the slide. Our mission, Bufa's mission, is to provide access to healthy, fresh, locally grown, pesticide-free fruits and vegetables to underserved communities, especially in urban areas. The organization, BUFA, promotes the benefits of plant-based diets and celebrates agricultural traditions rooted in African American food history and culture. But in addition to providing produce, we wanted to be about the business of educating as well. We wanted to be able to train, teach, and share with members of the community how to grow their own garden, how to grow their own uh, uh, crops and produce that could be sustainable for their diet and good health. So we provided a number of programs to invite the community to be a part of, to provide that education and training and learning. But we also do that through volunteerism. We invite the community, whomever would like to give of their time to be a part of our team. We partner with institutions, educational institutions like UOP, University of Pacific, and Delta College. We have a number of students from those two institutions who come out on a regular basis. Some is a part of their make it a part of their what program, but part of I haven't been in college so long. What they need to do, their credits to get credits to earn credits. They come and be a part. They have to volunteer so many hours to get college credit. So we have a number of and I think one of our slides may have shown that we probably had over 320, or perhaps even up to 800 volunteers over the years, over particularly in year 2025. So we are advancing this vision through not only our own efforts, but through the efforts of volunteers. And we hope to make it grow. We partner with other organizations who lend their expertise, support, resources to help us in our vision. And so um, we are looking forward to doing greater things. We have a fundraiser coming up in May of this year, I believe, is we're looking forward to it being one of the biggest fundraisers we've ever put on. So we're hoping to expand BUFA to do greater things, more impactful things, to provide more produce, and just to have a greater impact in the community.
Thank you so much, Mr. McMillon. We appreciate all that you have done and led the way up in the Central Valley and beyond. And now what we're going to do is we're going to bring up our next speaker who's going to, when we have our panel, be joining us. That is Dr. Bill Releford. And Dr. Releford is a medical doctor with a unique twist through Bloom Ranch of Acton. So, Dr. Releford, if you go ahead and tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Thank you so much, Antoine. I first want to just thank you for the opportunity to share in this short period of time aspects of my vision to combine soil and science, so to speak, farming and medicine. I've been practicing as a podiatric surgeon for over 36 years. I'm the founder of the Releford Foot and Ankle Institute, where I primarily focus on preventing amputations in my local community. I also founded a program called the Black Barbershop Health Outreach Program about 15 years ago. We screened about 30,000 African-American men in Black-owned barbershops across the country. As you can imagine, with that journey, we saw some things that other people don't see when we call real boots on the ground, when you can see what's happening as relates to health disparities in our community. And with the Black Barbershop Health Outreach Program, the vision was to get healthcare providers out of their offices and into the streets and into our community where health disparities and the impact or the results of health disparities, you can be seen right there on the ground. Many times we would go into Black-owned barbershops. Some of these men had never been to a doctor in their whole entire lives. When we would go in, we would organize local schools, local fraternities, sororities, nursing organizations to partner to go into those barbershops. So that gave me a very unique perspective about what's really happening as it relates to health disparities in our community. Also, I have a program called Black Limbs Matter. Black Limbs Matter is a program focusing on addressing the epidemic of amputations in the African American community. Many studies have shown that we have about 5 to 6 times the amputation rate of other ethnic groups. So that is something that I'm professionally and personally passionate about. I don't even use the word purpose anymore. I use the word assignment. This is my professional and personal assignment. And when you have an assignment, that means you have to have impact. So this is my way of having impact in my community. Next slide, Michael. And so Bloom Ranch is actually an outgrowth of my medical practice. About 15 years ago, I wrote a book, and I'll talk to you more about that, called 5 Colors a Day to Better Health. When all of my patients that were the healthiest ate 5 colors. They had lower diabetes, they had low blood pressure, low cholesterol. So I started taking notes and informal research about the impact by eating colors. So Bloom Ranch became available to me about 3 years ago, and I didn't know that this was going to have the impact that it has had in the local community, where it's the largest Black-owned farm in LA County with 250 acres. Bloom Ranch was established in 1891 by the Blum family. They were immigrants from Switzerland, homesteaders. And the main guy, I think his name was George, he was a stone cutter. And some of the stones that are in City Hall and those buildings were actually cut by Mr. Blum. Then after that, the Billet family, or the descendants of the Blum family, Elizabeth sold it to the Ziegler family. I purchased it from them. And it has been an absolutely wonderful journey for me to provide a combination of soil and science and medicine, food and medicine in a very unique, synergistic way. Next slide.
Perfect.
So what we do, we take a lot of pride in cultivating the future. We grow people too. We have a lot of young men in our local community that have never been on a farm before, but they have found their way in growing some of the best collard greens, fruits, and vegetables. Bloom Ranch has over 4,500 peach trees and about 1,000 peach and apple, pear and apple trees. And we're very, very proud of the variety of fruits and vegetables that we provide. One of the things that I do in my personal practice is I only practice 1 day a week now, as I'm kind of semi-retired. All of my patients that come to see me, they get a Bloom Bounty Box once every 2 weeks as a form of my way of giving them real medicine. Some of these wounds, I treat a lot of patients that have chronic diabetic wounds. Some of these wounds start getting better once they start eating better. So we really can see that food truly is medicine. Next slide, Michael. So my latest book, called The Real Pharmacy, Pharmacy, 5 Colors a Day to Better Health. My goal here is to say, count colors, not calories. When you count colors by default and you eat by colors, you're going to have lower caloric intake. So you had to give up something. I don't think that life should be about counting calories. We should just count colors. Hopefully you can count 5. Hopefully you know 5 colors. But in this particular program, Food is Medicine, we have strategic partnerships with UCLA and Martin Luther King Hospital, where we actually are putting together prescriptive boxes that address certain medical conditions. For example, we're partnering with the urology department at King Drew, and stone box to prevent kidney stones. These are the brassicas, the broccolis and cauliflowers and dills and basil of the world can lower the risk of the development of kidney stones. So we are starting this campaign where we will give these patients boxes that are medicinal, but with just fruits and vegetables. We also will have a box called a pressure box to lower high blood pressure naturally with your beets and other things, your dills, your turnips, and your garlics and onions and things like that would naturally lower your blood pressure as well as your cholesterol. So we're very, very excited about this strategic partnership. Some of the things that we're doing in the future with Bloom Ranch, we will have a program in the next month or so called Blues and Bingo. Blues and Bingo will be for our seniors to come to. We'll bust them in. They'll come in around noontime. We'll provide lunch and many times transportation, and they'll listen to blues, probably down home blues or something like that, and play bingo and maybe even some dominoes. And I don't know, but anything to help them have a good time and experience the ranch. One of the things that we have found out is about the real scientific benefit of going to being outside and gardening. A lot of times we think dirt is dirty, but science have shown us that people who engage in the soil actually have more robust immune systems. They're healthier. Some of the microbes and fungi and other things that are in soil are really good for your immune system. Also, too, when you farm and you garden, just the sense of well-being, I grew this. And also, too, what we found with our young men is that you can't have the cell phone and the gardener hoe and the rake in one hand and the shovel in the other. You have to be completely present. So when they're there, we find that they're a lot more intentional, aware of the surroundings, and then the mental health benefits of farming is enormous, because now you can say, I took this seed, this mustard seed, and I grew it into this. So that's what we see with a lot of our young men that come on the farm, as a sense of accomplishment when they get there. And also, too, metaphorically, the law of the farm with our young people. We do a lot of mentoring there, that you just can't plant a seed today and harvest it tomorrow. It takes time. You got to cultivate it. You got to be patient. Many times our young people, they have this instant cake mix gratification, think they want it right now. But the farm makes them slow down and really appreciate the seasons, not just on the farm, but the seasons that we have in life as well. Next slide, Michael. And I think that's it for me. I'm sure we have a lot of questions that will be coming up. So thank you so much. There's a lot more to talk about, but I just, for the sake of time, I just wanted to kind of put those food nuggets out. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Releford. Yeah, there's you unearthed a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of comments in the chat, from people trying to make M&Ms, fruits and vegetables because of the colors, and Skittles. Yeah, now this, look, we're not going to endorse that, you all. We need everyone to do better, not M&Ms and Skittles. But we're going to get into now a conversation where based on what you all have shared, I wanted to be able to dig a little bit deeper into some of those things. One thing is around, because we're talking about the impact of Black Americans in farming. Has there been anyone in your life, your experiences, that has impacted you to take this road, to get into this field, art, agriculture, farming, medicine? Who are those individuals for you personally or nationwide, right? National known, who impacted you to do what you're doing today?
Glenn, you can go.
Okay. Well, full disclosure, I'm a city boy. Grew up in New Orleans, Louisiana. So, I did my grandmother. I remember going to Osaka, Mississippi, and I just remember all of the pecan trees. So there were a lot of pecans. And then I had, I think, a relative on my, I had a cousin who's on his mother's side, it would have been his grandfather or grandparents, had a watermelon, I don't know what you call it, patch, a bunch of watermelons. I remember that. So I kind of thought that was interesting. And, during that time being exposed to it. But growing up, I still was pretty much a city boy. I was exposed to farming here when I got here to Stockton, and some years, probably even after I retired from my field of work, um, you know, joining with my wife and um, as a plot holder at Puentes. That was kind of the first time that I, really sunk my hand into the dirt, into the soil, growing uh, produce. We were growing, my wife was growing everything, you name it, she planted it and it grew. So that was sort of a first to for me. But beyond that, I've learned to enjoy it. Certainly, eating freshly grown foods, produce is just way not only healthier but tastes better. And so it's very enjoyable. I love the way my wife prepares certain greens, certain squash. Uh, so it's been uh, uh, an enjoyable experience once I've gotten into it. Once I have gotten into it.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. McMillon. Dr. Releford.
So I was born in a little small town called Wagner, Oklahoma, in between Tulsa and Muskogee. Of course, at the time I was trying to get out of there because Oklahoma is not the greatest place in many aspects. However, grew up on a farm, and we grew most of the food that we consumed. There was always some yams and onions around the house, and lots of collard greens and onions and things like that, and chickens and hogs. And of course, I don't eat pork now, but as a kid, you didn't have any choice. We had fresh eggs and things like that. And I remember I made my first quarter picking cotton. I was probably 6 years old. And so, of course, in the country, everybody goes to church. And my grandmother said, you take this quarter and you put it in the Bible, don't you spend it? So I remember that fond experience with my grandparents on a farm. And then, of course, I moved to Los Angeles. Thank the Lord for that. And then I became a city boy. So now it's full circle for me, from the country to the city, and now in a way back to the country. And a lot of times the things that we run away from are the things we should be running towards in many, in many ways. So, of course, and scientifically, George Washington Carver was an inspiration to me for farming and all the things that he did and all the innovations. So I always kind of lean, into that. And, being on a farm, and I think an open space is a very, very significant thing, because you can think when you're out in the open. You'd be surprised of all of the noise and chatter that we become used to, that normal noise, helicopters, cars, and sirens, and dogs, and people. But on a farm, you really can get connected or reconnect yourself to a higher source. So for me, those have been the inspirations for me to do what I'm doing with the farm.
Thank you so much. That's really good. You speak to that noise pollution, right? Because that just can drown everything out and cause a lot of issues and stuff. So, one of the things I wanted to ask you all about was because you've been talking so much about what you do and what you have done and experiences and everything. How can people get connected to local farms? Whether it's finding out where they are, especially Black farms, Black-owned farms, but finding out where they are, seeing if there are ways that they can give back, whether it's from a distance or through their hands, right? Getting into the soil, like you said, that soil therapy. But what are some of the things people can do to find out about and support those local farms that are in their area, as well as, ranches, community gardens, things like that?
Well, one of the organizations that we partner with is called Black Soil. Michael, you may want to put up in the chat the website of Black Soil. Black Soil is a organization based out of Lexington, Kentucky, and they keep some really, really good stats on all of the Black farms across the country, and they have a lot of initiatives to help support Black farmers. So I would start there first. I think there's a Black Farmers Fund and a Black Farmers National Association. So I think there's a lot of resources there that Mike, you may want to put in the chat for the
Yep.
benefit of everybody.
Yep. Michael put it in there too.
Mm.
Perfect. Mr. McMillon?
Well, I know here in Stockton, we have a number of um, festivals that are, well, Black related, like Black Family Day, Juneteenth, and at those events, Black farmers generally participate in to make known their whereabouts of their existence, to interact with the community, to invite the community to be a part of what they're doing. So Bufa, whenever we have an opportunity, we generally participate in our Black Family Day and in Juneteenth. There may be others, I don't, in this day and age, everything is on Google. So I would just probably encourage the audience, like they perhaps already know, just Google and prayerfully, hopefully it will come up and uh, provide that needed information.
Perfect. Thank you. Yep. University of Google or University of YouTube, as they say. We'll find a lot of stuff for you. And plus nowadays, there's AI, there's different types of technology we can use to find a lot of things that I know back in my day. I'm dating myself a little bit here. We would have to, I don't know if you all remember calling the phone number to get the time, right? Or the weather,
Yes, right.
using a Thomas guide. My wife and I, when we got married, we drove across the country from Chicago to California using a Thomas guide. So, and then I had to send it back to my grandfather when I got here. And he said, "Send me back my time." Oh, this is a different conversation. But um, you all shared some really good information about a lot of different things, and we have some questions in the chat that we'll get to in a second. But before we do that, one last question um, about farming and the challenges, right, that come with it. So what are some of those challenges that you all have experienced in farming? Here in California, rain sometimes is a premium. So water can be an issue, or different policies and things that are in California or across the country. But what are some of those challenges that you have to try to figure out how to navigate when it comes to farming and agriculture and medicine, even Dr. Releford?
Well,
Thank you.
initially, when we started out at Puentes, it was just a nominal fee for plot holders. And I think one of the challenges um, that Puentes as an organization, whatever they call themselves, was water. I think the rate of water and the usage of water was extremely expensive. So they passed that on to us. They passed that cost on to us. But when we got to Bufa, we were fortunate. I mean, really fortunate. I think it was God-given that on Miss Kitty's property there was a well. She had a well, so we didn't have to there was no issue with water. I should just make it short. There was no issue with water. We were able to water our crops and as much as we needed to for their well-being, their health to grow. And it cost us literally nothing. So, but beyond that, resources, equipment, tractors are not expensive, are not, yeah, are not cheap, I should say. Um, and in the early days of Buford, we did much of what we did by hand. We didn't have the bigger equipment. It was all manual labor and it was challenging. But when Rita came on, she was able, not came on, she was already there, but when she took much of the lead, uh, she was able to partner with other organizations, and lo and behold, we got a tractor, and it was a godsend, and other equipment that were necessary to make the chore of farming less difficult, less hard, for lack of a better term. But so resources could be an issue. We didn't have too much of an issue with hands-on volunteers. We were blessed to be able to get volunteers out when especially for larger projects to do major weeding and preparing soil for growing new crops, taking out old crops and preparing soil for new crops. We were generally fortunate. As I stated earlier, we got volunteers from UOP and Delta College. So we had volunteers on a regular basis. But, there were times in the year, times in the seasons when
So,
volunteer hand was not as available. School, the kids were back home or summer or what have you. So sometimes workload or manual labor, manpower could also be an issue. The other thing, trying to maintain a pesticide-free crop, that's hard. That's very difficult in terms of, we got to deal with the natural uh, elements, insects, and we had we had to design a system. L did this very early on to keep the gophers from being a problem. So the natural elements, the natural insects, varmints, or what have you, dealing with them without using chemicals becomes a challenge.
thank you so much. I like to echo some of the things that Glenn McMillon talked about. When you are sharing this space with Mother Nature, we're sharing this space with Mother Nature. We know Mother Nature got to get her 10%, but she can't take 90%. We will give our 10%. So sometimes Mother Nature may take too much of her share.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So in that regard, we had to deal with the coyotes, the bobcats, because we had chickens that were there, and so one thing we thought we had that issue handled. Then the chicken coop looked like a bloodbath, a massacre, so we had to deal with that, and then of course we had to. We tried different kind of dogs. I think we've got the right kind of dogs right now. The Great Pyrenees dogs to kind of help keep the animals and the deer. We had a problem with the deer. They learned how to jump over a fence that's really high. So we had to bring plants that prevent them from going over the fences that we were dealing with. Fortunately, we have water rights as well. We've got about 4 wells that are there on the property and other wells that we're going to be developing. Labor is not that much of an issue. Of course, in this new political environment, the ICE raids and things like that have had somewhat of an impact of our farm. We've been able to pivot and have some of our young men that we're cultivating get out there and harvest as well. So we've been able to let people get a taste of what it's like to harvest peaches in 100-degree weather. So that becomes a teachable moment as well. Of course, we've had to use all the natural strategies without using any pesticides in the 135-year history of the farm that's never had any pesticides on that property, especially with the legislation now. The government is allowing forever chemicals to be used on farms now. And so we really want to lean into the fact that we are pesticide free.
Nice, nice. Yeah. All right, you all. You have shared some remarkable information that's generated some real good chat activity. So if you get a chance, check that out. We won't be able to answer everything because again, we only scheduled an hour for this conversation. So we will get to one or two questions more than likely. But I want to take someone who's had their hand up very patiently for about 30 minutes now. Mr. Michael Harris, if you can come off mute and go ahead and ask your question.
Am I off mute?
You are, sir.
Okay. Well, I've been blessed to be at both sites in the urban agriculture and certainly, the 250 acres and Dr. Releford. I just find it funny to hear you talk about retirement. This man, he got a big mountain behind him and he run up that mountain, so it's hilarious to hear you talk about retirement. But the idea is how do you, both of you, real quick, how do you see us expanding agriculture? We're like 1/2 of 1% of Black agriculture in California, the number one ag economy in America. How can we expand the production of agriculture?
Question.
That's a very, very complex question because the barriers that affect housing, health, and all the other social determinants and barriers affect farming as well. So it's not an isolated situation. We have to deal with some of the systemic barriers and systemic legislative barriers that have been in place historically. And also, too, you have to even deal with the mindset. Many people have been cultivated. They can't do it in a strange way, even brainwashed, so to speak, that these are not possibilities. So that's a very complex question to me that requires a shift in the mindset of taking ownership of your own nutritional destiny. We do have resources that are in our community. I think we might be the third or fourth economy in the world from a consumer perspective of African Americans, so that we require maybe some kind of shift in where our churches are putting their money. Maybe we can have kind of coalitions where some form of aggregation of our resources to purchase land. So it's going to require a shift in the mindset of our people about redirecting and redefining the current resources that we have for something of this magnitude. So for me, it's many, 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 many layers to address something like that.
Yeah.
One of the things I was thinking, Dr. Releford, as you were talking, is it's difficult to go against the giant, corporations. So one of the things that Buford tries to encourage to some degree is growing locally or even individually, using at your home, if there may be an area of space where you can learn how to grow, one or two, three different sorts of crops or um, um, food, healthy, without pesticide, that may be sustainable for your family, for you and your family. Churches are also, there are a couple of churches, at least one that I know in our church, we were attempting to do this as well. On our property, we were encouraging members to develop a plot. We provided, the tools, the soil, the where they can create their own individual plot and grow different kind of produce, and maybe they can do it as a team. One individual, one family might grow corn or greens, another one might do tomatoes or whatever, and then bring it together as in that way. And so on a smaller scale, uh, in essence, what I'm saying, on a smaller scale, maybe we can just do the like community gardens with either home or churches, or perhaps even beyond that, schools or what have you, in that
And
way.
I'd like to add to the fact of Michael Harris's question is farming is just one aspect. The
Mhm.
farmers have to have access to certain markets. So if you grow something, you have to have a customer where those vegetables are going to go to.
Yeah.
So owning the land and growing the vegetables is one aspect. So that requires, a strong sales force or some kind of control of our own local grocery stores, farmers markets. So it's a whole ecology and a whole system that has to be put in place. So the farming is ground zero, but access to the market. But I strongly believe that if we control the products we consume as a people, as African Americans, and say, I just want to buy from Black farmers, then we can control our own economy from that perspective, like that. The other thing I think is a strategy for Black farmers is to be a part of a more expanded conversation other than just growing vegetables, partnering with medical institutions, partnering with healthcare clinics, where these clinics now can use a local farm or farmers for access to fruits and vegetables for their patients, other than just a farmer's market or a store, partnering with a medical institution or some healthcare providers as an outlet for those vegetables and fruits.
Yeah. And in addition to that, too, Dr. Rutherford, is Buford tried to partner with Black restaurants, Black-owned restaurants, and encourage them to purchase all of your, you know, vegetables or fruits from a Black farm.
Yeah, yeah. Those are some phenomenal, and I hear you all saying it, there's multiple layers to this issue, right? There's systematic things that need to happen that are at this bigger scale, right? That might be federal, that might be governmental, that might be regulations. And then there's also at the ground level, it's kind of like when you have career day for kids, it has to start where people actually see this as a viable source of employment, ownership, legacy, all those different things, so that they, don't just get into it for one aspect, but they can actually see, to your point, Dr. Rutherford, how it can grow into these different other angles. Not just looking at stores and farmers markets, but the education system, the all the other aspects of it as well. So it's a big challenge. But thank you, Michael, for that question, because it is something to really think about. And I would encourage people to start locally. Talk to, if this is an area of interest, talk to a Dr. Releford or a Mr. McMillon about their experiences and what they've done. Volunteer at their farms, at their ranches, at their locations. Support local community gardens, farms, ranches, and others. Find out what you can find out and see how, where, and when you can get involved. And that's a very, very important piece.
One thing I'd like to add is that I would encourage those people who do want to farm or are farming to find other ways to add value to one vegetable. So one of the projects that we have is, a peach. How many things can you make with a peach? So of course, the peach itself, we have peach preserves. Now we have peach muffins. We have peach croissants. We have a peach skincare line. So look at that one plant is how many things can you make out of one plant? Even the leaves of watermelons have medicinal properties. You can distill that and make skincare products out of that. Even now they have okra water as well. You can do things with the okra water is good for your skin now. So how do you add value to an element that would spoil or you have to compost? So that's another way to improve the sustainability of your farm. Finding how many products can you make out of an apple, orange, or peach.
So all right. So because we could keep going, and I know we can't. So we're coming down to the end of our time here. So we got to one Q&A question, but that's all right. That's all right. We'll try to get back to some others that came up in the chat. But appreciative so much, Mr. McMillon, Dr. Releford, for your time. Appreciative of those who actually came and spent their time with us this morning. I wanted to give you all both right now about a minute to kind of any parting words or anything that you would like to share with everybody that's on right now. So we'll start off with you, Mr. McMillon, and then go to you, Dr. Releford.
Well, I don't have much. I really would defer to Dr. Releford. He has so much, but just thank you for being a part of this, and just want to encourage the audience, as Mr. Cook has said, just look for a Black farm and try to support it as much as you can, whether resources or with volunteer assistance, and just support us in that way.
Good. First, I'd like to thank AARP for an opportunity for us to share our prospective journeys, as we are both collectively concerned about the well-being of our prospective communities. And I want to thank AARP for giving us that.
Yeah.
In closing, I'd like to say that as a people, as a nation, I believe that the health of our people is the most significant national security problem that we have, right? Not immigrants, not that. It's the diabetes, it's the high blood pressure, it's the amputations, the heart attacks, and the strokes. Those are the real weapons of mass destruction that I think can do the most damage to our country. So by embracing Black farmers and the things that we do, we can be a part of the solution to help address health disparities that's going to be good for everybody.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Great way to end it. Great way to end it, Dr. Releford. Before we finish up, I do have another poll that I have mentioned to everybody that we'll take at the end. So on your screen right now, you should see poll number 3 that's going to pop up. Are you more aware now than at the beginning of this session of the impact of Black farmers on the food supply in America? If you can go ahead and respond to that question, please do so. We're going to give about 15 or so more seconds for people to go ahead and respond. And I love to see this number because it's pretty heavy. And it speaks to the value of these types of events that we try to put on for the community. All right, about 5 more seconds to go. And 3, 2, 1, I'm gonna end it. So you all can see 95% of the folks said that you are now more aware than at the beginning of this session of the impact of Black farmers on the food supply in America. So thank you so much for joining us this morning. Again, appreciate the time that you took out. Again, another reminder to visit our AARP, www.aarp.org//CA to visit our California page, where you can see more events and things that we're planning for the remainder of this month. I'm going to put some up on the screen right now, some events that are coming up. We have a healthy living series this coming Tuesday with Nurse Alice about heart health. We also have a session on storytelling coming up on the 25th. Next Thursday on the 26th, we have a line dancing session coming up about the history of line dancing. And then we have on-demand film screenings throughout the month, different movies happening at different times. So you can find that all on our www.aarp.org/CA page. And the movie screenings are free. All of these sessions, all of this stuff is free 99. It's the best kind of 99. Thank you all again for joining us this morning. This concludes our session. If you would like to see the recording, please visit our AARP California YouTube page where we will post the recording there. But have a great rest of your day. And like we mentioned throughout this session, support a farm, support a local farm, especially a Black-owned farm. All right, you all have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you.